Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Tima podcast. There has been a media war over Manchester United in recent months. The whole story with Ten Hag, searching for a new manager, the sacking of Ten Hag, and now the question of Ruben Amorim. Will Ruben Amorim be the man to take Man United back to their former glory? Or will he be yet another manager to be sacked from United? Big debate, lots of questions to be asked. I, as an ordinary fan, have no agenda, no bias, no vested interest, so therefore I will try to give you a fair, honest, and balanced view that you probably might not always find on the mainstream media because there are always biases on the mainstream media and agendas and ideas for and against certain people. But I will try to give you the simple fan view, but also making it detailed and thorough. So this is a interesting episode. So before I begin, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel Tima Bowler. Comment down below. Follow me on other podcast platforms. So yeah, thanks so much for that. Let's begin. Let's begin with this analysis. I've been looking forward to this. I've waited quite a bit to actually release this episode because I wanted to find the right time to begin this analysis. We have now seen 2 games, home and away, so we have enough information to try to make an analysis and really make sense of what is going on at Manchester United. Let's first begin with a brief context overview to Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim is a Portuguese manager. He's 39 years old. He has managed at Casa Pia, Braga and Sporting, and of course his most famous time has been at Sporting because he won their first title since 2002. The Portuguese league fundamentally has Benfica and Porto, who are the best teams there. So what Ruben Amorim has done is basically win their first title in a long time. So that obviously was a major achievement. I guess you could sort of draw a parallel to Jurgen Klopp coming into a club which hasn't won it for a long time and then winning it for the first time in many years. So his first season he came 4th, then he came 1st, then 2nd with the same points tally, then 4th, then last season they finished 1st again, and this season they were 1st right before he left with 11 out of 11 wins in their league, top of the league. So quite impressive, right? He's won 2 titles in what is 5 or so years. So that's not too bad. 5 or so seasons. And he's won 2 titles. Could be on track for a 3rd one. Obviously quite impressive the way he's transformed that style. Playing some very creative attacking football to the extent that Manchester City were interested in him. Liverpool were also interested, but eventually we didn't get him. We got Arne Slot. But what is Ruben Amorim all about? And why is he better than Erik Ten Hag? Well, Ruben Amorim's tactic is a possession-based attacking football. Fundamentally, he plays in a 3-4-3, so 3 centre-backs, 2 wing-backs, 2 defensive midfielders, 2 attacking midfielders, and a striker. They play with a high line, they play with high, well-organised press, but they can also go low block in possession. So it's not like Ange Postecoglou says they only play one way. No, he does switch through phases of play. He does have a strong commitment to a playing style, and actually that could be one of the reasons why essentially with Liverpool the talks broke down, because he does have a very clear way of playing football, his way of football. So he likes to use these DMs as the centre midfield to control the game. The wing backs push up the pitch. The 2 attacking midfielders will drop into pockets behind the lone striker, which was Victor Gyökeres, who obviously now is probably the most informed striker in Europe. Him, Lewandowski, maybe Haaland, but he has been sensational, scored more than 20 goals, I think, so incredible. And what does this mean for United? Because reading this all sounds pretty cool, right? You think that this is good, right? Surely, possession-based attacking football, all these fantastic credits. I mean, the most interesting bit is Ruben Amorim's last home game was against Man City, and they smashed Man City 4-1. So you look at a lot of promise here, but of course, and also in addition, Manuel Ugarte, who plays for United right now, right? He's a defensive midfielder. He did very well under Ruben Amorim at Sporting. So it seems like there are a lot of promising signs why Man United went for him, because he can deliver this long-term vision. One of the problems with Erik Ten Hag, this is the thing, right? The fundamental problem that people have with Erik Ten Hag and Manchester United in recent years is the lack of a clear playing style, a style of play. Man United will play something, but there's no clear style of play. Sure, they of course won games, they won two trophies in 2 years, as Erik Ten Hag would always say. Fair enough, 2 trophies is cool, but they never really had a clear style of play. He wasn't able to implement that. Now, whether that was his own tactical failings, whether that was poor recruitment, whether that was just players being bad, I think it's a mix of everything. But fundamentally, Ruben Amorim seems to be an appointment which is designed to change that. Because you want to build that over time and have that way of playing football. Liverpool have a style of play. Even with Arne Slot, he is very quickly implementing his own style of play. Possession football, attacking, creative. Obviously, Pep Guardiola's tactics, Ange Postecoglou. The problem with United has been that they've not had that for a long time. They've just never really been able to implement that. And in that sense, Ruben Amorim is a good appointment. Then let's look at some potential issues, because to understand whether or not he will be successful, it is a question of, will Ruben Amorim be able to overcome the challenges of Manchester United? Because Man United have had a series of managers after Sir Alex Ferguson left, right? So you had David Moyes, then you had Louis van Gaal, you had Jose Mourinho, you had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you also had Ralf Rangnick, not for a long time, and then Erik Ten Hag. And each of these managers were unable to overcome certain challenges, which is ultimately why they left the club. And when they left the club, they were in a poor position. It's no Manchester United manager of those ever had. None of them finished on a fantastic league position. It's not like they finished first and they were great, or they were second and they were fantastic and then they left. It was always that there was a decline in the league, which was the fundamental problem, especially with Erik Ten Hag. The league position finish being the worst problem. Winning the cups was fantastic. Sure, he won the cups. He managed to get some good performances out of the players, but there was something wrong, that the team wasn't playing the right style of football. There were all sorts of dynamics like player power and downing tools. Just the team wasn't functioning coherently, not scoring enough goals, not being attacking enough. And all these managers tried. There were some recruitment errors. There were some tactical failings. Some managers arguably didn't really fit the club. For instance, Jose Mourinho stayed in a hotel, which questions his commitment apparently. That was a problem with him. Example. Not to say he wasn't fully committed, but that was one of the criticisms towards him. Then with, for instance, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it was that he was arguably too nice in a sense. He wasn't able to actually come in and do things properly and deliver and then be that kind of proper ruthless manager and transform the team. So will Ruben Amorim be able to overcome these issues, which I'm about to explain? So the first fundamental problem will always be that Manchester United, the transfer policy is an issue, right? The team is not a world-class team. You don't look at that current squad that Manchester United have and you don't say, wow, that's a world-class team. You look at it and you say, okay, not the best keeper in the world. Centre-backs have a little bit some issues there. DM, you've got Mainu, Ugarte who are decent. Casemiro has been aging. Eriksen's aging. Rashford's not performing. Xerxes not performing at all. Mount's barely played. Lenny Yoro's been injured. Garnacho's very decent. Ahmad is probably not getting enough minutes. He seems to be unhappy, might leave. Højlund is inconsistent, scores a few goals and then proceeds to not score them for a long period of time. So the first problem will be trying to elevate the squad, and that will rely on transfers. Will Ruben Amorim be backed financially? Manchester United spent over 600 million under the Ten Hag era. Naturally, they will always have certain restrictions in terms of financial fair play, because in the Premier League, you cannot just spend. You can only lose a certain number of money over a period of years. So Manchester United will be restricted financially to some degree. And of course, he can make some signings. He will be able to bring in some players. But will that be enough? And will they be brought in at the right time? Because if you don't bring in players in January, that makes the season very difficult for Ruben Amorim. Which leads me on to my next point about the shift. The shift of playing a 4-3-3 for many years to now going to a 3-4-3. There is a complete system change going on. And we asked the question, how will the team adjust? They barely were able to play in a 4-3-3. How on earth are they now going to change to a completely new system? How will the system work? Manchester United do not really have the right amount of centre-backs to play the system right now. Because you need 3 centre-backs. Alright, De Ligt, Martinez. Lenny Yoro hasn't even played properly for Man United. He's just coming back from injury. Then Lisandro Martinez has had injury issues. Matthias de Ligt is alright, but then who else, right? Because as I said, Amorim plays a high line, so it's very important for the defense to be quick. You can't have people like Johnny Evans and Maguire. They will not be long-term solutions to play this attacking possession-based of football with a high line. Next, we have a problem of the wingbacks, because Manchester United don't really have proper wingbacks. They don't even have a proper left back. Malacia just came back after not playing football for like 550 days. Luke Shaw is basically never fit. Becomes fit, goes to Euros, not fit again. Coincidentally becomes fit when there's a new manager. So there are no wingbacks as per se, and as I said, wingbacks are very important in Ruben Amorim's system because these wingbacks need to be pushing up the pitch. So who do you play at the wingback position? Do you put people like Dalot, who is not really an attacking wingback? He hasn't got the traits and qualities of a proper attacking wingback. He isn't someone like, for instance, Jeremy Frimpong, who is a far more attacking fullback than is Diego Dalot. Is Nusar Mazraoui, despite being a great player and a good signing, does he really fit that? Could you play wingers there? Could you put Garnacho? Could you put Ahmad there? They tried putting Ahmad there for the game against Ipswich. Sure, he got an assist, but is Ahmad's best position playing at wingback, quite deep and having to dribble past the whole team? Shouldn't Ahmad be playing forward up the pitch? Isn't that where he's most strongest at? Why should you play Garnacho, who is a typical classical winger, who should be running down the flanks and scoring goals? Should he be playing at wingback? So that's a problem already we have. And do Manchester United even have a proper top-class striker who will be able to perform the role of holding up play? Because Rasmus Højlund undoubtedly has talents. He has scored a decent number of goals. I think he had like 14 goals last season. And this game against Bodo Glimt, he had 2 goals and 1 assist. So undoubtedly he's got talent. He's a good player. He needs to get more service. But is he really the man? And if you go for another striker, who will you get? And then what happens to someone like Xerxes, who now is what have you done? £44 million for a player who has scored 1 goal in all these appearances. He's had like 18, 19, a lot of appearances, right? Scored 1 goal. 1 goal as someone who was supposed to be a backup striker to Rasmus Højlund. And no disrespect to him, I'm sure he can be a great player, did well at Bologna, scored some decent goals, but unfortunately, not all good players will work in a certain system, so that's a problem. And obviously, Onana has had a decent season, but will he be able to be a top-class keeper? Again, more questions asked. So, and then obviously we keep on going. Bruno Fernandes, not really the best at pressing. Will he work part of a possession-based football system where you need a well-organized high press? Will he fit that? Will Mason Mount become more prominent? And what will you do with people like Garnacho? Where do you fit in Garnacho? Because you have to kind of play Rashford. He's on 300k a week. So he's your star player. He's meant to be playing. And then, let's say, for instance, he's playing as one of the 10s. And so is Fernandes. Well, what happens to Ahmad, Garnacho? What happens to Mount? What happens to Xerxes? So already structurally we've got some problems because players don't really fit. Because going from a 4-3-3 to a 3-4-3, there are fundamental differences between these football styles. So let's look at results. What has Ruben Amorim done so far? Apart from really impressing people in press conferences, apparently having a good sense of style, I've heard people were impressed the way he wore some cool jackets. But the first game was a 1-1 draw at Ipswich, rather disappointing game, where arguably Manchester United were lucky to get away with a point, despite scoring in the second minute, Marcus Rashford. Again, Amad Diallo, great assist. But apart from that, it was a very inconsistent performance, lots of criticism for certain players. Ipswich had 6 shots on target versus Manchester United's 4. So, yeah, disappointing. You're playing championship teams. Doesn't matter, home, away. You're playing away, doesn't matter. It's still Ipswich. You're meant to be destroying Ipswich. And you have drew Ipswich in your first game. Fair enough, though. Understandably, you need time to adjust. He took lessons from that. Then, Bodo Glimt, Norwegian team in Europa League. They're top of the Norwegian league. They've won it, I think, 4 out of 5 times. So, decent team. They did make 5 changes from the weekend because they have an important league game coming up, a very important title-deciding league game. So you kind of get that Bodo Glimt didn't really have their A team out apparently. Again, I'm not a Bodo Glimt fan, so I'm not going to tell you exactly who is the A team or B team. I'm just hearing things and I'm trying to convey in the most accurate way possible. But Manchester United beating Bodo Glimt 3-2 at Old Trafford. Interestingly enough, it was a quick start. It was a goal in the first minute by Garnacho after Hoyon decided to press the keeper. Good press. Then Bodo Glimt scored 2 goals fairly quickly. But then Manchester United make a comeback to win 3-2. So they had 73% possession and 20 shots. So the signs are good, right? Of course, having a lot of possession, you scored 3 goals. But the way they conceded these 2 goals was not particularly impressive. The defensive line was caught out. The defensive midfielders were not doing their duty. They were exposed. They were just simply exposed by what is a Europa League Norwegian team. And you ask the question, well, when you play the more serious teams, what's going to happen to you? Because if you're being exposed by teams like Bodo Glimt, it's a bit challenging. They've got Everton next at home, but then they've got Arsenal away on the 4th of December. Well, I wonder what will happen then. That'll be a massive test for Manchester United. And then they've got Man City on the 15th of December. And then Tottenham in the Cup, 19th December, quarterfinals. So some really big games coming up, really, really big games. That'll be quite significant for them. So, having told you all this information, where do I stand at this? What do I think? Do I think that Ruben Amorim will be like Ten Hag? Because when Ten Hag came in, similar things were said. He was playing attacking creative football at Ajax. He had some domestic trophies and titles. Similar thing here, you have a manager who's had domestic titles, creative attacking football. Is something different? Yes, because Ineos are now in charge. Ineos are now in charge. Ruben Amorim is an Ineos appointment. And the last summer transfer window was actually it wasn't brilliant, but it had logic to it. Manchester United were not splashing cash on random players. They were not splashing £88 million on Anthony or 55 or so million pounds on Mason Mount, who they did not need, or bringing back Pogba for £100 million or buying Lukaku. Like, these signings made no sense. But here it seems to be a more clear and structured plan. Bringing in people like Lenny Yoro, De Ligt, who are decent signings, Mazraoui, Ugarte. I think Xerxes has been someone who is not really worked out, and the left back position is still to be solved. So obviously Ineos have their limitations, and let's not hype up Ineos. By the way, one thing here, some people like to overhype Ineos. Let's not forget that Ineos have not done the craziest thing in sports. It's not like Ineos are some super successful owners who have taken teams to Champions League winners, right? Let's be honest that Ineos have just come in. They've done all these good things to bring the right people in. Sure, Berarda, Blanc, Sir David Brailsford, Dan Ashworth. Okay, good progress, all right? Jason Wilcox, technical director from Southampton. The progress is there. You've got a superstructure in place who will work with the manager. So hopefully for Manchester United, that will provide more future certainty. But I'm going to say that this season, Ruben Amorim will not be able to fully prove himself, simply because he will not have the players to implement his style of football. I think there will be inconsistency. I do not think they'll finish in the top 4. I expect them to finish 6th or 7th because, funnily enough, despite all the terrible performances, they're only, how many points? So 3 points off 7th. So Nottingham Forest, Spurs, Aston Villa all on 19. Meanwhile, Manchester United on 16. So the gap is surmisable. I would expect Man United to finish 6th or 7th this season. That's my prediction. I know I predicted them 4th when I was making my predictions. And of course, yeah, a lot of things changed since my predictions. And my predictions are they're quite bad. I'll make a reaction on them at some point. Let me just say that I've been very biased against a certain team with trees. And I have really overhyped Man United by predicting them 4th. But that's a separate topic. But in the future, I do think that Ruben Amorim will be able to improve United. I think they might get top 4 next season or the season after. But I do not see them challenging for the league. I just don't. I think that to challenge for the league, you're going to have to completely redo that entire team. Literally from start to finish. Starting with goalkeeper most likely, defensive rehold, fullbacks, defensive midfielders, adding to midfield, adding to a striker, wingers. It's just way too much change, I think. They're too far away from it. It'll probably take more time, if not no time, with Ruben Amorim. And also, let's not forget that Ruben Amorim, despite all the praise, he's not proven at the top European level. He's not a Champions League winner. He's not a proven winner, as per se. There are risks involved. He might not be able to cope with the pressure. It is very difficult to come to this country and handle the media, especially being the manager of what is apparently called the biggest club in England. That's a separate debate, but the pressure on the United job will always be different to other clubs because it's a club which has spent more than a decade in decay, and each manager gets more and more pressure, and each manager that walks into the door has to sort out the issues and problems left by the previous manager. For instance, Antony was brought in under Erik ten Hag. Now, Ruben Amorim will have to deal with Antony. What do? Do you sell him? Do you move him on? How do you sell him? Where do you play him? You've got Onana, who, let's be honest, last season wasn't a great keeper. This season he's been decent, but again, what do you do with Onana? Then you've got someone like Casemiro, who will probably be moved on eventually soon next summer. Like, he will be moved on, but nonetheless, it will be difficult for Ruben Amorim to try to sort out all this mess and to rebuild a squad. And we are assuming that all the future transfers will be on point, which they're unlikely to be. I don't think Ineos will suddenly become like Michael Edwards with Liverpool and just make all the best signings in the world. Sign the next Sadio Mane, Firmino, Salah. I don't think they'll do that. I certainly think that Manchester United can go back to being 4th place, but I don't expect them to title challenge anytime soon, personally. Is my opinion. Well, do you agree? Do you disagree? Once again, please do subscribe YouTube channel Tima Baller. Of course, leave a comment in the podcast. Leave a comment on YouTube. Let me know your opinions. I wish you all the best. Of course, have a great time.